folks, welcome to the Warlords. I am Jim Hanson, the East Coast Warlord.
And I'm Kurt Schlichter, your West Coast Warlord. And guys, today we have a world of topics that we could wrestle with. But we selected three good ones for you. We're going to talk a little about wokeness. We're going to talk a little about women. We're going to talk a little about some cultural stuff. Of course, I mean the film Caddyshack.
That is high culture, to say the least. Hey, listen,
Oh, yes.
on the wokeness side, all right, last week, everybody was all up in arms claiming that we on the right could not even define wokeness. Well, there were a few people who managed to stumble trying. So it inspired me to go ahead and give my definition, which I'm going to put up and I'll read right now. Wokeness is an ideology that imposes identity politics, social justice, thought policing, climate hysteria, neo-racism, queer pedagogy, and socialist equity using statist, corporatist, cultural enforcement. Now, that's kind of a textbook style definition. Feel free to adapt because this is America. That's what we do. But have some ammo for the fight.
Exactly. Don't go in with no magazines. Now, my option is a little different. When somebody says to me, Kurt, define what wokeness is, I say it's that collection of dreams and fantasies that you have that I'm going to destroy.
And now here's the thing. There's a lot of people who love to prove how smart they are by just digging in and explaining the intricacies of all these things. It's called admiring the problem. We're not like that. I don't want to admire the problem. I want to crush it, like Kurt said. I want to beat them and stop them from fundamentally transforming our country into a socialist crap hole. So what we're going to do is we're going to give you some ammo for that counterattack. And the first piece is don't take their crap.
Exactly. Look, I'm a lawyer. Everybody I meet, I argue with because I disagree with. And there are lots of tactics, techniques, and procedures out there that you should go and pillage from us lawyers because it'll make your life so much easier. The first thing is don't follow the enemy down the rabbit hole because you're just going to walk you into an L-shaped ambush. If you get off the subject of wokeness and the evil that it does, and start bickering about definitions, you're off the target and you're going to get creamed.
The thing to do is simply refuse to accept their premise. You're a racist. No, I'm not, and I don't care what you call me. You're a misogynist. You're a transphobe. No, I'm not. I'm normal. You're a freak. And that's the thing. They're trying to destroy normal. Don't accept that premise.
You'll have an urge to say, wait a minute, why should I even bother responding to your nonsense? Who is the audience? Well, I'm in a courtroom. It's either the judge or the jury or both. When you're out there on social media or in real life, your audience is that people who are watching you. Understand, you're never going to convince them of anything. You can't use reason and facts and evidence and logic to win your case because they've already decided the outcome. Your goal is to convince the people outside the dynamic between you and the commie pinko dirtbag that you are correct. You want to bring them to your side. You want to bring them over. And you can do that simply by first refusing their premise. No, I'm not some racist. And then countering it, you're a terrible person and everything you do is going to destroy our society. That kind of puts them on the back foot because then you're not arguing on their terms.
The nice thing is we have so much evidence that their policies don't work. Remind them that every Democrat-run city in this country is a crap hole already. And their goal, what, is to spread that success to the rest of us who don't want to live like that? No. Like Kurt said, even online and on Twitter, for example, there's only 10% of the people who produce 90% of the content. The other 90% of the people are lurkers. They're watching. So your job is not to be the guy who goes off and loses his mind and says evil things and things they can use against you. It's to bait them into saying something stupid and keeping your cool.
Exactly. If you're a warlord, you just don't care about the opinions of thralls, those who toil in the fields. They don't matter to you. It's not important. So don't be concerned that you're not convincing these leftists of anything. They are not going to be convinced by anyone but their own personal pain. And remember, a lot of the folks that are on your side right now used to be these leftist weirdos. Were they convinced by us telling them how stupid they are? No, they were convinced by the failure that's right in front of them. So you supply that, but let them come to their own conclusion. Remember, you're not there to convince the bad guys. You're there to convince the other guys, the guys who are just sitting there going, I don't know, am I gonna side with the warlords, or am I gonna side with the damn dirty communist hordes?
And they're making it easy. That's the nice thing. For a long time, they were doing a really good job of a slow fundamental transformation. They were slipping it in through the culture. They brought it into the education system. But when Trump came into office, they lost their minds. And
Yeah.
now they're willing to tell you, yes, we actually do hate you. We think you should be censored. We think you should be driven from the community. And we think that everything you believe is not just wrong, but hateful ideology that must be run out of all polite society. Let other people see that. And they are. And that's the thing. That's why they're helping us. Their craziness is actually making it easier to show we are the side of security and prosperity and normal. Invite people to our team.
Well, look, that's exactly right. Look, they had a little success. It went to their heads, and they've gone too far. Now, keep in mind, the enemy is decentralized. To the extent it's centralized, that's because they have, their own little language and their own little norms. But sometimes people get out ahead of it. When you have some weirdo on TikTok, and our friend Libs of TikTok has done a brilliant job of making an entire social media phenomenon out of simply taking what these idiots say without much commentary and just showing it to people. Drives the libs nuts, because they've got people out there going, hey, I like to have your kids come to my classroom where I turn them into little gender freaks. And I also enjoy grooming them, because, we're perverts. It drives many leftists nuts that some of the other leftists have to get out ahead. But it's only natural, because when you've made an entire movement out of transgression, it's the guy who's most transgressive who's going to get the most attention. Like, Warlord Jim, you mentioned this earlier, that Dylan weirdo on The Price is Right.
That was one of the most horrifying cultural events in modern American history, and I think everyone should watch it. Just Dylan Mulvaney, Price is Right. Now, here's the advantage we have over them. They can't criticize him because they have decided that there is no judgment. Nothing is better than anything else. There are no actions, no ideologies, no sexualities. Nothing is better or worse than anything else. Therefore, they're freaks are normal on the left, and they have to accept them. All we have to do is look and say, I don't know, that seems a little crazy to me. Maybe we don't want to live like that. And a lot of normal people are going to go, mm-hmm.
Well, Warlord Jim, what you're doing here is you are leveraging some of your military background, your Special Forces First Sergeant, and you look at the enemy and you find their weakness and exploit it. You find the hole in their line where their line is weakest, and you punch through it with all you got. That's what we have to do, because their weakness is their decentralization. People like to say, well, they're very message disciplined. They are message undisciplined, because when you have guys out there with pink hair and a dog mask saying, I want to be around your 5-year-old, okay, normal people are going to go, ah, ah. And that is a great weapon, because that's what they ultimately want. It's just some of them are dumb enough to say it.
Yeah, and that's where their message discipline is actually their downfall, because they can't stop saying it. Even if it's crazy town, they will repeat it, they will justify it, and they will try to convince the rest of us that that is actually normal. And we should encourage that. That lets the normals who aren't paying attention, because remember, most people don't have time for this. They're busy getting the kids to soccer practice. So those of us who take an active role in this have to understand that you must lead them slowly to the promised land where we can actually have a society that understands normal again.
Well, look, as in the military and as a warlord in real life, you understand about leadership same as I do. Leadership is not about forcing someone to do something. Anybody can get somebody with a penal battalion behind them and a bunch of machine guns say, if you go back instead of forward, we're going to kill you. Leadership is about letting people make the decision to do what you want them to do.
Amen.
Those guys who went over the top in World War I, they had to decide they were going over the top. At the end of the day, you can't slap a guy silly enough to make him do anything. You've got to make him want to do it. And that's what we're talking about here. This time in the context of wokeness, but other times in the context of other things here on the Warlords. Now, Jim, I want to move on to a new topic because, there was a time when older guys would share wisdom about, women, which is pretty much the most important subject out there.
And the most dangerous.
And they're not getting that these days. I think it falls to you, guys like you and me, to help them out, don't you think?
I think at this point in time, the cultural wisdom that used to be passed down, from fathers to sons, from older men to younger men, and the same thing on the female side, has been lost. And it's partly due to the fact that the left has managed to break up those norms that used to make our society cohesive. So yeah, I think it's time to start the wisdom of those who have lived through women to tell other folks how to do the same.
Well, as warlords, we solidify that status by having what warlords do, which is extremely attractive, valued, high-value women. Okay, we're not talking tramps. We're talking high-value women,
quality,
who we had to work for and we had to earn. And I make no bones about saying that. And frankly, because we understand about women, they would hear this and go, "Oh my gosh, those men." And inside they would go, "Damn right."
And they make it
right.
Well, and that's just it. The idea is not that you want to be one of those. I've seen these faux, tough guy dude bros now who seem to think that the idea is, no, you treat women like trash and you got to pound on them and verbally and treat them like crap and all of that. That's cute, but it's stupid. If you have a quality woman, she should be your equal. And that's the point. And earn her ability to treat you well, do the same to her. And that's something that I think is so much higher quality than that low level, oh yeah, I'm an alpha male, gonna sleep with every woman I can find. I find that unimpressive.
Well, look, there are guys out there, and as the Warlords progresses, we'll talk much more about it, who confuse being a quote unquote nice guy with being a doormat. There are also guys who confuse being an alpha with being a jerk. These are very different concepts. But sometimes, look, as a guy, you're faced with a woman who's got something wrong with her, and you got to regulate. Let me read a tweet from one of my favorite sites, Women Posting Their L's Online. And this is Jay Fuego, and there's a picture of her. And I'd put her about a 5, maybe a 6. She's not repellent, but she's not like, you wouldn't be like walking around going, okay, I'm a star. Look what I got on my arm. She tweets, if a man leaves after you've cheated, he clearly wasn't a real man. Real men would work through it and help you become a better woman. They accept you with all your flaws. Warlord Jim, your reaction to this perspective?
Bye, Felicia. I'm
Boom.
sorry. No, that is disrespectful to us. Okay,
Exactly.
I'm not saying that it's not possible if there was a situation where someone cheated that every single time it has to end. But once that happens, what have you got? Why would you want to be with that person again? So the idea that you're going to cringe and somehow say, yeah, honey, it's okay. I don't mind that you slept with that guy over there and you're probably going to sleep with that guy over there. No, that's not the way it's supposed to work. It's a two-way street. Respect and the rest of it has to be earned both sides.
I just feel it's just a bizarre perspective. What would be the thought process that would get you there? Where some woman cheats on you, and you're like, I'm done. Pack your stuff. Because we're trying to keep it FCC compliant here on the
Right.
Warlords. Pack your stuff, do the duffel bag drag tag. And then she's like, well, I don't understand. Shouldn't we work this out in a way that allows me to have done what I did with no consequences? And I'm thinking, where do you get that perspective? Is this something this Jay Fuego saw in her own life and the bizarre social pathology petri dish that was her upbringing?
But what she saw was the culture being destroyed by all of the popular stories. You cannot watch a television show or a movie or anything else that does not have a solid dose of adultery, and it's also going to have now a politically correct mix of the right skin colors, melanin tones, and also at least one trans person as a lead. But they've shown that they no longer believe that the nuclear family and that respect and that fidelity is something to be valued, and they've run that down. So I can't blame her. She learned that from our culture. It's up to us now to say, no, that is no longer acceptable. You got away with it for a while. We had, the free range sex, and now maybe it's time to get back to the way things actually worked.
As a guy, you've got to understand, and a lot of guys don't, because you look at statistics, something like 30% of guys in their 20s are in a relationship that involves a human being instead of porn and video games.
Mm-hmm.
Dude, there are a ton of girls out there. Okay? Do not fall for a chick and allow her to treat you like trash. If you get in the mindset that there's one girl and I better put up with whatever she does because there won't be another. Warlord Jim, a lot of these guys don't understand how a guy works. A guy, as he progresses and becomes more successful and more distinguished, becomes more high value. I got to tell you, when you're 22, 23, your value's pretty low unless your last name's some like Kennedy.
Or you're a pretty boy.
But, that's rather a small percentage, because a lot of younger women are going to look for guys who are older, who have their stuff together, or more successful. And, of course, that becomes a problem when they're of a certain age and the guys of a certain age are looking downward. That can be a problem.
I think the game now needs to change. They scared men off from being the aggressors in relationship building. And I think, okay, there was a level of, misogyny and that whole pushing women down for long enough that it needed to change a little bit and make equal footing. But you have to understand, women are not going to pursue you.
Exactly.
It's not going to happen. So you have to open yourself up to failure, to ridicule, to all the rest of those things, and not care. If you want a quality woman, you got to chase her. You have to earn her, and then make sure that she respects you in return.
Unleash the power of not caring. Now, make no mistake. If a woman wants you, she's going to find a way to be around you. She's going to be in front of you. She's going to let you know it, but never directly. I dated a lot of girls before I met the beautiful Arena, and then purged all the other girls off my phone, which is a story I'll tell in some other Warlord thing. But she never caught up and said, Kurt, I want to be with you and nobody else. I had to figure that out. Now, she was right in front of me. She placed herself in a position where that was possible, and I responded. And you've got to be, and I think aggressor, it's not a bad term, because you have to be there and you have to open yourself up to a girl saying, you're a freaking loser. Get out of here, dork. Because if you
not
don't,
care, that's the whole game.
If you don't, you're not where you need to be.
Now, let me tell you how I met my wife, because this was a perfect example. She was a paratrooper. She was on the 4th airplane into Desert Storm before the 82nd Airborne even got there.
I was on the 800.
She was a wounded warrior. She was in that program back here, and I met her at a dinner party after she'd come back, medevac back from Iraq. She had a set of jump wings on a necklace, a gold set of jump wings, and I noticed that. And instead of being smart and nice and sweet, I made a joke about them, because she didn't have jump master wings. She had regular novice jump wings. And there's a joke you make because they don't have a star or a wreath on them. They just have the wings themselves. I called them bald-headed jump wings, which is
Oh,
a rude thing to do.
oh,
Yeah, and
oh.
she hated me. She 100% hated me. She wanted to stab me. She threatened my life that night multiple times. But I figured out that I had screwed up, and I continued to follow her for probably another 6 months, trying to work back into her good graces because I knew she was a quality woman. So don't think it's going to be easy, and watch your steps along the way, but don't give up if it's the right one. Don't keep going if it's the wrong one, but be willing to go ahead and make it a pursuit that's worthy of both of you.
Well, look, a big alpha tell is a guy who can discriminate between a quality woman worth putting effort into and a low quality woman who needs to be shuffled off and completely ghosted. And we'll talk about how to handle women you want out of your life, I'm sure, in some future Warlord episode. But no, you're exactly right. As a guy, if you want to be a warlord, you're going to have to go make it yourself. Nobody's going to give you anything. Again, unless your last name's Kennedy, or you can bench press 600 pounds, or you're the captain of the football team. These are statistically insignificant people.
And often insignificant emotionally people, but...
Well, look, they've got their own problems, which they're going to have to deal with. You, as a audience member on the Warlords, you need to know you can do it. It's there. The knowledge is there. The tactics, techniques, and procedures are ancient. And the thing is, they work. They work.
Right on. Well, hey, that was a nice little intro. We will continue to help people with life in this complicated world. But now let's get on. Let's have a little fun, right? We were serious and we talked about stuff. Isn't it time to deal with one of the greatest movies of all time? And there's plenty, but what are we going to do this time? What's the one?
It has stunned me that there are people out there who consider themselves movie buffs, mostly younger than us, who haven't seen some of the classics. And one that comes to mind immediately is the great Rodney Dangerfield vehicle, Caddyshack.
What a brilliant movie.
Why is this so great, and why is it so impossible that it could be made now? Because it turns around who the villain and who the hero is. The hero is the anti-establishment guy. He's a real estate developer. He's loud. He's obnoxious. He's kind of vulgar. And he gets in the face of a bunch of uptight establishment guys, including Judge Smales, who, in all honesty, makes a good point when he points to someone and says, well, the world needs ditch diggers too. Okay, valid.
Yeah, but you also had the brilliant Chevy Chase performance as the Zen master, who was actually a complete Muppet. You know, and it was beautiful. You know, he every time he would play these wonderful philosophical things, you watch Danny, the caddy, who is the kind of the protagonist of the film. And he's looking at him like he's crazy, but he's absorbing the nuggets of wisdom in that cloud and fog of bat guano crazy. And it's beautiful to watch. It's one of those times where they manage to figure out how to put the deepest parts of the movie in the shallowest vehicle available.
Well, look, one of the great things in this, a callback from our prior segment, Chevy Chase's character, who's kind of a clod, if you look at him objectively, also has this amazing irrational self-confidence. Mm-hmm. And he gets the hottest girl in the movie.
Now, he's also rich, but...
I'm the guy. Well, yeah, but, he's a goof. And everybody digs him. Now, of course, my favorite is Al Servin, played by the great Rodney Dangerfield, and he comes to Bushwick Country Club, and he's just amazing. It's beautiful and so mean and politically incorrect.
And the things, he's dogging the Asian guy. He's dealing with sexual identities in ways that are not proper, and the whole thing does. And that's kind of one of the joys of that movie, and you look at Animal House and Blues Brothers and Blazing Saddles and movies like that, is they were allowed to slay sacred cows by the herd. And it was funny. And it was not mean. You know, it was not
No,
done in a way that was mean. It was
no.
done in a way that actually mocked the people who were being, you know, some sort of bigot, and showed
Yeah.
that the bigotry was not a good thing. It showed that the bigotry, while the cliches were funny, the bigots were usually the morons in the film.
You have Al Cervic walk in with his Asian golf partner and he goes, "This is Mr. Wang, no offense. He's not used to being here. You know, he's Jewish. You know, I mean, just funny."
Which is that's a double dip right there. He makes an Asian joke and a Jewish joke and a Wasp Country Club joke
Yeah.
all at the same time. And I
Oh,
mean,
and
the losing that is why nothing is funny, nothing is entertaining in modern movies anymore, because you can't say anything that could potentially offend any identity group within your potential audience.
you know, somebody go, "I can't believe he made an anti-Asian joke about Mr. Wang." Well, first of all, it's not really anti-Asian. Nobody's offended. It's a pose designed to get power for the person complaining. And they do it by telling everybody else, you're not allowed to have fun. And that's the thing about Caddyshack and those kind of movies. They're fun. You look at most of the movies that were up for Best Picture this year, right? Did they seem particularly fun? A lot of them were, you know, my struggle as a differently abled, non-binary Norwegian. You know, I felt oppression in the fjords. It's just like,
And the guy was black. That's the funny thing. You know, the
yeah,
guy doing, he was the
it's
one black
insane.
Norwegian guy. But here's the thing we need to push back on. And as always in the Warlords, we're not just going to admire the problem. We're going to point out that until we retake the right to offend, there is no right to not be offended. And there
Bingo.
never can be, and there never should be. Everybody needs to go ahead and put on their big girl pants and understand that you're going to be made fun of, and who cares? Take it and give it back. That's the way the game is played. It's not going to kill you. It's not going to ruin your life. It's going to make you a stronger person. And once we realize that everyone can make fun of other people and that cliches are cliches because they're real, then we can get back to actually enjoying life again.
You and I both grew up in the early 80s. We were young people then. Do you think that the early 80s were a worse time racially in America than today? Do you think there was like more hatred and anger then or now? No, by a long shot.
They ruined it. I mean, they actually took race relations, which were going well, and I blame Obama for this. You know, it was one of those things where he decided to empower all the groups and tell them that your grievances are real. You are oppressed, even though they're the freest, you know, most
Prosperous.
blessed people and prosperous and secure people in the world. Their lives are awful and someone needs to pay. And again, it's all part of why can't you go ahead and be happy with where you are, where you live, and make things better instead of looking for a grievance and an offense in every piece of daily life. It's a hellish way to live.
Step one for the aspiring warlord: get your vocabulary of cultural references down. If you haven't seen Caddyshack, you need to go see Caddyshack.
We'll publish a list. There is and here's the nice thing, because Kurt and I are both from Gen X, the last great generation.
Baby boom by a week.
Dude, I'm bringing you in. We have to be Gen X because you're not a boomer. Boomers have a certain way of living. Neither you nor I have done that. So we led from the front. We changed things. We made life fun. We took the American dream to the hilt. We partied like rock stars. Our music was great. Our movies were funny and offensive, and life
and we won our
fun.
wars.
We won our wars. Life was fun, and that's what we're going to do. We are going to bring that back. We're not going to be the last great generation. We're going to be the great generation that teaches the next generations how to have a good time, how to dominate.
And stick with us here on The Warlords. We'll be seeing you again soon.